Right, today we are going to make a breakfast bar. We've been talking about fibre and how we need more fibre in our diet, and this is an absolutely super and easy way to get fibre in our diet and also to make sure we have a breakfast. So the first thing we need to do is we need to turn our oven on. If your electric oven, remember that you've got to turn the red switch on the wall and then turn it to 160. If you're a gas oven, then you need to open the door, turn the switch to the power sign, check you've got flame, and then turn it back to gas mark 3. The next thing we need to do is we need to line our tin with greaseproof paper or baking parchment. So first of all you need to cut a piece of paper slightly larger than your tin. You're then going to make it a little bit squarer . And you're then going to put your hand flat in the middle of your paper in the tin, and then you're going to cut each of the corners right down to the bottom of the tin. And this will ensure that your paper lies neatly in your tin and you get nice neat bars. The next thing we need to do is we need to grease our tin lightly, you don't need to swim in. Then pop our paper back in, making sure that our corners overlap, and then we're going to re-grease it again. We don't want too much paper overhanging the tin, otherwise with the gas ovens it could catch alight and cause a fire. So just neaten it off if you think it's too much overlapping, and that's your tin ready. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to weigh out all our dry ingredients and put them in our large bowl. Now, you need to remember that the weighing scales do not move, they stay where they are, and you go to the scales with your bowl. So the first thing we need to put in there is some dried fruit. We've got some nice dried, I'm going to use cherries, I could use raisins, I could use papaya, I could use little cranberries. There's all sorts selection of different dried fruits now in the shops that you can use. So we need 50 grams. Remember to zero your scales once you put your bowl on. Make sure they're on grams because they measure fluid ounces, ounces and millilitres, and you want 50 grams. Fine. Pop those in your large bowl. We then need 50 grams of mixed seeds, and I'm using a selection, you can buy bags of mixed seeds, but I'm using a selection of pumpkin, sunflower and poppy seeds, and they're going to add texture and they're also going to give you that fibre that we need. So we want 50 grams of that. 10 grams of poppy seeds is a lot, so I'm only going to use 10 grams of that, and I'm going to use 20 grams of my other 2 seeds. You could, if we didn't have any nut allergies, You could put nuts in it instead, but we need to check which group you are and whether there are any nut allergies in that class. You could, of course, if you don't want seeds, add a different dried fruit in there. So 50 grams of my seeds. Then I want 140 grams of oats. Now oats are rich in fibre, and at the moment in this country we are suffering from a disease called diverticular disease, and it's on the increase because we're eating too much processed food, and in processed food the fibre has been taken out. And fibre is needed for a healthy digestive system. If you don't have enough fibre, you could get constipated and it could be very uncomfortable. So 40 grams. Okay, 140 grams of oats. Also, oats are your main ingredients in here, and oats are suitable for people who've got celiac disease, as they don't contain any gluten. So our next thing we need is our multigrain cereals. Again, this has texture to it, and we want 25 grams. Okay, 25 grams. And that's all our dried ingredients. So give them a little mix up, and then you're going to if you give your dried fruit a bit of a coating with the oats, it will stop them sinking to the bottom of the breakfast bar and keep them evenly spread out through your breakfast bar. Next thing we need then, we need our saucepan, and we need our other ingredients. So we need 100 grams of golden syrup. Make sure that our scales are on 0 again. 100 grams of golden syrup. Now this is very sweet. It's going to bind your ingredients together and make the bar. It is instant energy, but you do need instant energy in the morning to get you going. Breakfast is a really important meal of the day because it breaks the fast. It's the longest time of the day, of the 24-hour period you have been without food. To that we are going to add some light brown sugar. Now brown sugar will give it a nice caramelly flavour. You can use ordinary caster sugar if you wish, but this brown sugar will improve the flavour. Again, so sugar, one of the carbohydrates, which will give you instant energy. And again, we need to add 100 grams to that. Now, if you feel confident, you can measure it into your syrup. If you don't feel confident, get another bowl or your measuring jug, because the accuracy of this measuring will decide whether your breakfast bars will stick together or not, or whether they will be too sticky. As I'm adding it to my syrup, I want it to go to 200. Right, near back to 200. So I've got my sugar and my syrup, and the next thing I need is the butter. And I want, again, 100 grams of butter. Now, if I'm not feeling confident, I can of course swap my bowl for my saucepan, 0 the scales again, and I'm going to put in 100 grams of butter. Now, if you're using hard butter, then the best thing for you to do is to chop it up, because if you put it in as one big lump, you're going to melt this, and what will happen is that your syrup will burn while you're still melting the butter. So chop it into cubes and put it in cubes. We want 100 grams. Butter is the least processed of fats. It is basically the cream from the milk which has been over whipped, and that has made it divide into the buttermilk and the fat. And we drain the buttermilk off, add a little salt to the fat and pat it together, so it's the least processed fat you can buy. So back to our breakfast then. If you don't have breakfast, you have a tendency at the next meal to snack on fatty and sugary foods which aren't any good for you. If you don't have breakfast, you have a tendency to be very tired throughout the school day, and you'll lack concentration. So if you are a sort of person who gets up late and rushes to school, these breakfast bars are ideal for you because you can grab one on the way. And they will last in an airtight tin for several days. So I've got my 100 grams of butter, I've got my 100 grams of sugar, and I've got my 100 grams of syrup. And that's all now going in my saucepan, and I'm going to gently melt it over the cooker so that the sugar dissolves and the butter melts. Make sure you use a plastic spatula to get all that syrup out, because you need it for binding your dry ingredients. So again, with the gas cooker, choose a ring, turn it to the pound sign, make sure it's on, and then turn it to the heat you want. I'm using a small ring. Use a wooden spoon, not a metal spoon, to stir it. Metal spoons conduct heat, and you could end up burning yourself, and you could also scratch some of our non-stick saucepans, so use a wooden spoon when stirring on the cooker. Now I've put it on a gentle heat on a smaller ring, not the larger ring, because the larger ring will just heat everything up so quickly that the butter won't melt and you will burn your sugar. So you're dissolving the sugar and melting the butter. Heat control is very important, because if you don't use the correct heat control, you can change the flavour of an awful lot of cooked products. Keep stirring it until all the butter is melted. The sugar's dissolved now, but the butter is melting now. So, you can vary this recipe. You can vary the breakfast cereal that you put in it. You can vary the dried fruits you put in it. You can vary the seeds that you put in it. But you will need the syrup, the sugar. Again, you can vary the sugar. You can vary the fat you put in it. It is up to you and your taste. But there's all sorts of interesting seeds and dried fruits in little bite-sized packets such as this, available in your larger supermarkets. So we're nearly there, the butter's nearly melted. And the sugar is dissolved. So, please get the wooden mat out of your cupboard. Put your saucepan on, turn your heat off, and then you're going to add your dried goods to your melted oats. You're going to stir them and make sure that you've got all the breakfast cereal, oats and seeds and fruit covered with the melted sugar, syrup and butter. And once you're happy that that's the case, you're then going to get your tin. You're going to put your mixture in your tin. Again, make sure you get it all in, don't waste it. Use the plastic spatulas, which will be on the middle table. Get it all out. And then that is going to go in the oven for 20 minutes. And it's very difficult with breakfast bars to tell whether they're cooked because they actually have to cool down to harden. So make sure you accurately time it. So before you put it in, you need to press it down so it's all even thickness in your tin. Lovely. And then because your oven is hot, you will need to use oven gloves to get it in the oven. Now, make sure the oven door is stable before you try to get it in the oven. Pop it in the oven, and then while it's cooking, you're going to wash up and fill in your progress page on your booklet. Once it is cooked, you are going to leave it in the tin till the end of the day. So it cools and hardens, then you can cut it up and then you can put it in your box. If you try to cut it up as soon as it comes out the oven, it will just fall apart. You've got to wait for it to cool and harden.